The role of the Assembly is obviously that the Mayor is the main decision maker, has the day-to-day executive decision-making power, but the Assembly's role is to scrutinise the Mayor, investigate issues of concern to Londoners. Obviously, that includes uncovering and working with a huge amount of data in terms of our day-to-day scrutiny work, both in terms of committee work, cross-party committee work and formal investigations and so on. Data's essential, but also individual work from all of the members in terms of putting questions. And we do find that trying to get hold of data does take up a key chunk of time of our support staff and so on. Absolutely crucial on a whole range of topics, flooding, low pay, issues like that I've been covering recently. And we've generally had a lot of problems. Officials are often reluctant to release raw data to politicians as well as other members of the public. I remember in the early days of the Assembly, it was a big battle with Transport for London to release the congestion charging contract with Capita, and we did finally get that in the public domain, allowed proper scrutiny of the plans for congestion charging. Another key battle in the early days was just getting the Mayor to publish the decisions, the formal decisions the Mayor was making or delegating on the Assembly website, and so a lot of the early days really battling away to get the most basic data. I think things have improved, and obviously with the introduction of Data Store, that's been really important. And I've started to ask for the data that I request as an Assembly member to go on to Data Store, so the information is shared with whoever's interested in the topics I'm working on, so it's available for everyone, not just for me. And I think it is starting to change the way we think about public policy making. For example, in terms of my work now on the Environment Committee, I've got the Mayor to say we'll put all data used for strategies into Data Store, so that the Assembly, when it's scrutinising the Mayor's draft strategies and looking at the underlying assumptions behind them, testing the policies and so on, if we actually have the data that backs up those strategies, that informs those strategies and the underlying assumptions and the key policy objectives behind them and so on, then obviously that makes our work much easier. And sometimes data is a major barrier. I remember when we did an investigation on street trees in London back in 2007, early 2008, and until then there'd been no study of tree planting data across London in each London borough. We pulled this information together on the number of trees being planted, number of trees being lost in each borough, and it did get a huge amount of publicity when we launched that report. And 3 years on, when we've come back to that piece of work now and looking at progress, it's been really interesting to see what a role that report has had. And the representative from the Tree Officers Forum did acknowledge that our report had been very influential in terms of not only did we bring this information out into the public domain, but it did put pressure on the boroughs, on the policymakers and so on. So we've seen the Mayor of London, when he was elected in 2008, commit to a street tree planting programme across London and finding the funding for that to get more trees planted. We saw, as a result of our report, a protocol with the boroughs and the insurance industry working together to ensure that a more robust approach to tree removals due to subsidence claims was developed, so that trees weren't being unnecessarily removed and unfairly blamed. And we've seen a definite move now towards the planting of broadleaf trees rather than the small ornamental trees, which was one of our key recommendations and something that we found was a real problem. The ornamental trees don't do that much good in terms of biodiversity, in terms of shading and so on, tackling the heat island effect. It was clearly demonstrated when we came back to this piece of work that we'd had a major impact on public policy in this one particular area. So you might think, well, it would be easy then, 3 years on, that this data would be routinely available. But no, it has been absolutely like pulling teeth, trying to get the boroughs to release all of that data. They say, well, if we release it, then some boroughs that aren't doing that well. It doesn't look very good for them, and we would be unnecessarily rude about them, and so on. But I think it's absolutely vital if we want to see changes in policy, if we want to see improvements, if we want to see where things are going wrong and where things are going well, then we absolutely do need the data. So the committee is going to be calling for the street tree data to be published annually on Data Store, so that everyone can see what's happening in their own local areas about street trees. So that's just one example.